Alright guys, welcome to the very first Indigenous cooking show. I am very excited about it. My name is Nabil, and I would like to acknowledge that we are on the Dish with One Spoon treaty territory.
Have you been honing your bread making skills these past few months? I know I have. Do you want to change it up and try something new? Well, today we're going to learn how to make Bannock, a traditional bread used by many Indigenous people in Canada. So let's get cooking and see how to make Bannock.
Hi everyone, my name's Eric. I work at the Public Library. What's your name?
Hi Eric, I'm Angela Bellegarde and I'm the Indigenous Lead for our Kids Network.
Angela, I love your shirt. Can you tell me anything about it?
Thanks, and I see you are in orange as well. Way to go. Well, I'm wearing orange today because it's to signify Orange Shirt Day, September 30th. And this is a day where all Canadians should be aware of the residential school system and survivors of that school system. So we wear orange to commemorate that there's a number of survivors across Canada who had to go to this school, and those Indigenous students are still dealing with the atrocities that happened there. So yeah, I'm glad we got to wear these today.
And I wanted to show you. I brought a book here from the library. It's called Phyllis's Orange Shirt. And it tells us all about the origins of Orange Shirt Day and why we wear orange every year.
That's right. Phyllis Webstad out of Williams Lake, British Columbia, actually is the founder of Orange Shirt Day. And what happened is that her grandmother bought her an shiny orange shirt for her first day of residential school, and it got taken away from her. And she could never understand why she couldn't wear her orange shirt. So hence, here we are today wearing our orange shirts to remember residential school survivors.
All right, so are we gonna make some Bannock today?
We are gonna make that. Have you ever had Bannock before?
I've had it, I've never made it though, so I'm excited to learn.
Tell me where you've had it.
I think I was in Cub Scouts and I was about 8 years old. So it's been about 25 years.
Did you cook it over a fire?
We did,
With
yeah.
a stick?
We did,
yeah.
yeah.
I think that's how a lot of Canadians know Bannock. Bannock is what we would call a traditional or a food that Indigenous people ate. It was actually brought to Canada by the Europeans and explorers.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But we've taken it and made it our own.
Okay.
It has a fairly high fat content, so it does stay for a while, so you could take it out on trips or hunting trips or wherever you are on the trap line, and you could eat it for a number of days. My favorite type of Bannock, which we're not making today, is fry Bannock. And I hope someday that we do get to do a segment on cooking up traditional fry Bannock, because it's so delicious.
Oh.
My sister and I used to come home from school every day and just fry some up with some honey. It was delicious.
That sounds amazing. So we're not doing that today?
We're not doing that today. We're going to start start with the basic Bannock recipe.
Okay.
For some of the viewers out there, you will probably recognize the ingredients. They're pretty stable pantry items. We have some flour, we have baking powder, we have salt, and we're using vegetable shortening today. When I grew up, we learned how to make it using lard, but trying to be a little bit healthier these days, making it this way.
All right.
Are you ready to get going?
I am so excited. I love baking. I'm not good at it, but I love it.
Okay, and I forgot, we have milk here, but you can also use water, depending on what you have, but you can use a combination of milk and water as well.
Cool.
So we're going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
First of all, we are going to start by mixing up our ingredients.
Okay.
And I have a nice bowl here for you.
Okay, so what do we start with first?
Well, we're going to start by putting in the flour.
Okay.
We're using about 6 cups of flour.
All right. Does this be perfect, or can I just...
Well, you know, with bacon, you typically have to be pretty precise for things to come out.
Right.
This is more of a rustic type of recipe, so it doesn't have to be perfect.
So we're doing 6?
About 6, yeah.
That's 1.
Now, normally when we're doing any kind of bacon, we would do a spoon and level it off and just be a little bit more precise. But you know what? When I grew up, we didn't even use a measuring spoon.
Oh, wow.
We
Okay.
just used a coffee cup, and in it went. A lot of this, when we're baking
That's
and cooking,
3, right? Okay.
is about feel, and it's about just after a while, you just get to know the touch.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing really well.
Oh, thank you.
How many do you think that is for?
That's definitely 4. I'm counting.
Okay.
You're talking, I'm counting.
Okay. Let's keep on going.
Okay, that's a little short,
I think we're going to add a little bit more. Oh,
All right.
even more than that. Perfect.
but... Okay. And then 1 more.
Okay. Go what you can.
This will be 6. I'll do my best to scoop out as much as I can
Sure.
here.
You know what? We'll go with that. We're going to save a little bit for
Okay.
later in case it's too sticky or when we
Oh,
roll
good
it
idea.
up.
Okay, smart. Okay, what's
so
next?
now we're going to add in some baking powder.
Baking powder, okay.
Yeah, so we're going to try about 3 tablespoons. And this is your baking powder here. Baking powder is the leavener in this particular recipe. Some people know leaveners, things like yeast. We're also going to be using, I think we need a bit more than that. We'll also be using the heat from the oven to help make this nice and flaky and tender.
So 3 of these?
Sure.
All right. It's hard to scoop out of here.
You know what? From my eye,
Yeah?
I think we can just dump that whole thing in.
That's so much easier. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and now we're going to
All right.
add a little bit of salt.
Okay, how much salt?
Well, this one I think I'm going to get you to measure.
Okay.
Let's use half a teaspoon of salt, okay?
So this is more than half a teaspoon.
That certainly is.
All right.
Okay.
That's a quarter. There's a half.
Yeah.
Half a teaspoon.
I know you have children. Do you do any cooking or baking with your kids?
Not a lot. I'd like to do more. My one son's only 1, so he'd be not too good at it. My 5-year-old, I'd like to do more.
Yeah.
He's good at mixing things.
Excellent.
Probably better than me.
I learned to bake and cook very early in my life,
Okay.
and I have started to do that with my children as early as they could. I mean, you can see how we can use fractions and whole. It's just such a great way to help counting and to really remember, what the earth has given us as well, and the land. We did a territorial acknowledgement earlier in the shoot, and that's because we want to remember how we get from the land and we give to the land as well. So you can talk about, where the flour comes from and those types of things. So now I'm going to get you to mix it up.
Okay.
Do you like my big green bowl?
I love your big bowl. Is there a story behind this bowl?
There is a story.
Okay, I'd love
Always a
to hear
story.
it. It's always a
So
story.
just go around and around. This is our Bannock bowl.
Okay.
It's so I call it my vintage bowl. Like so many things in my house are vintage. This is what we used making a big Bannock, and we still use it. And it's what my mom used.
Okay.
She also did all her proofing in her breads and buns and stuff at Christmas as well, and cinnamon rolls.
What does proofing mean?
Proofing is when you use, as I said before, yeast. You want to develop, you want the yeast to give up all that carbon dioxide,
Ooh,
and that's what makes things rise. And in bread, you really want to develop gluten. And you develop gluten by working and kneading. And after you've done that, you put it in a proofing pan.
Can you tell me about this? This looks older.
Well, this comes from my great aunt.
Okay.
And she had one. My kokum had one. Kokum means grandmother in Cree, which I am. And it's what they used when they were baking their bread.
Okay.
They would, after they got it all together, they would put it inside and put it in a nice warm area. And then we have some venting here because yeast gives off some heat when it's developing its carbon dioxide, and this is what they use. So I brought this along, and now is in my house, so I remember those who have come before me.
Great.
So now you've used a wooden spoon here, and you went round and round, and you did a fantastic job. I also brought this.
Oh, there has to be a story for that one. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, this is my kokum's whisk.
Okay.
So my kokum was my great grandma, and one day she was kind of mad because she couldn't find anything to beat the cream with, and so she went out and she made her own whisk from rabbit snare wire.
Okay.
And from binder twine, and it hung in her kitchen so that she could remember that to be thankful for all that she was given and that she could have the innovation to make her own. It hung in my great aunt's kitchen, and to remind her of all that she has, the abundance of her gifts, and it now hangs in mine. So I brought it because that's
a great story.
Yeah, that's what they would use as a whisk. So I brought that along.
Okay.
But yeah, this is our Bannock bowl.
Okay.
And I wanted to share it with our viewers as well. So you did a great job.
Thank you. Okay.
Now we are going to add in the shortening.
Shortening. Okay. How much shortening?
Well, we typically would, everything again is about feel, but we're going to start with a quarter cup.
A quarter cup. Okay. So that would be...
You can actually, you know what? I'm just going to look at this.
Okay. You're going to tell me.
And my trained eye would tell me that this is about a quarter cup.
Okay.
Usually a block is about 2 cups. So here comes our fractions.
Oh no. Okay.
You can tell that I am I love to talk about math and science-based careers and things like that. So
Okay.
fractions, there's a quarter cup. I want
was
you to
amazing.
I want you to start working that in there as
Okay.
best you can. And what we're looking for is for all of that shortening to become incorporated
Okay.
into pea-sized.
Pea-sized. Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
keep
if
working.
we're going to run into trouble, I can get you some different implements.
Okay. Stop me if I'm doing it wrong.
I think you got to keep working.
Okay.
Now, I know you have washed your hands,
Of course I washed.
and
my
I
hands.
have washed my
Yes.
hands. So I'm going to just get in there and
Okay.
show you it the old-fashioned
Yeah,
way.
I'd love that. That's probably easier than me mashing
Okay.
it. Okay.
So you just go in.
Okay.
Now, you want to work quickly because we do not want to actually make that shortening too hot.
Oh.
We don't want to melt it with our hot fingers, right?
That's possible with our fingers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's going to melt. So we're just going to keep working it in
Okay.
as best we can until it becomes pea-sized. You'll see that's not pea-sized.
No.
So give it a go.
Okay. Just keep working it?
Yeah.
Like massaging it?
Massaging it. Just
Okay.
keep it in there. Work quickly so we don't melt it. Because what we're looking for is for all that shortening to become coated with flour.
Okay.
And that's what's going to create the nice tender layers and flakes of the bannock.
Okay.
The last thing we want is hard bannock.
Okay. I don't want to make hard
We
bannock.
want it to be nice and fluffy
Okay.
because, you know, in my family, my Auntie Lorraine once made some bannock that
Yeah.
broke my grandfather's tooth.
Seriously? It broke his tooth.
Yes.
Wow, I don't want to break anybody's teeth today.
No, please
Okay,
don't.
okay.
So just keep working it in.
Okay.
Keep working it in.
Wow. I feel like you're making that up, but it's true story? You
Yeah,
broke a
it
tooth.
was kind of traumatic. We laughed because she had been away from home for a while. When I
Okay.
say away from home, she had been living out east here working, and home for me is Saskatchewan.
Oh,
So we were
okay.
kind of calling her a little bit too city-fied there.
Oh,
So you
okay.
see how that we're working
I
that in
see it.
really
I see more
quickly?
pea-sized pieces
Yeah.
now.
Now, some home cooks might want to use a pastry cutter.
Okay.
If you don't have that, you can use 2 knives and
Okay.
just cut it in. We call it the cutting in method, but
Okay.
this is how we did it. So we just want to work that in. We're getting to that piece
I
size.
see them, yeah.
Yeah. Now, we're going to start to add and just keep working it around.
Okay.
How does that feel to you?
It feels nice.
It is. This is exactly why I like cooking with my kids, because
Yeah.
they get to just, you know, you can talk to them about textures,
Mm-hmm.
and you can talk to them about.
You don't get that with a spoon, that's for sure.
No, this
Yeah.
is why, you know, when we bake, it's a lot about feel, and you know, it's really a time to think about so many things and to do a lot of teaching. Okay, so now I want you.
Okay.
I think we're pretty good here.
Okay.
Okay. So now we have to be careful. I think you have a. Here you go.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay. So now we're going to make a well.
A well.
A well in the center of this.
Okay, so do you mean like a hole?
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
In baking terms, you would call it a well.
Okay, okay.
So just you can use your hands, use a spoon, but yeah, just.
Okay. So should we see green?
No, let's have a little bit. Okay, and then let's pour in some milk.
Okay.
Now we're using milk today, which will help with a nice tender product, but you can use water as well,
So the whole thing?
whole thing. And as you're pouring,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you to also stir.
Both at once. All
I
right.
know. Do you think you got it? I'm gonna
Okay.
give
I
you
will.
this.
I will do my best.
Okay. Okay. Round and round. Round around the
The whole
bannock
bowl?
bowl.
Oh, man.
Round
This is
around the
this is harder
bannock
than I thought it was
bowl.
going to be.
Keep
The
on
bowl
going.
keeps moving.
Now this is another point where we want to be really careful.
Okay.
Keep on going.
Okay.
About developing and working the dough too much,
Okay.
because we have this is wheat flour, and there is gluten in this.
Yes.
Gluten is a wheat protein,
Right.
and
Okay.
it's what gives bread products structure.
Okay.
And this, because we're not using yeast, where we'll get a nice fluffy, we're only using baking powder.
Okay.
So the
Yeah,
minute,
show me how it's done.
So the minute we get that liquid hitting that baking powder, it's going to start to activate the baking powder.
Wow. Okay.
So we want to work a little bit quickly, and we don't want to work it
We're
too.
getting a chemistry lesson today.
We're
too,
doing-
as well. Cooking and chemistry. That's what don't you know, Angela? You are a genius.
Oh, you're too kind.
Yeah, I know.
You're too kind.
I was told to say that.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a background actually as a public health nutritionist.
Okay,
I have
okay.
a degree from the bachelor from the College of Commerce, I have a good degree from the College of Commerce, but I also have a degree. My first degree is I have an undergraduate degree as a nutritionist, bachelor's science degree in nutrition.
Okay.
from the University of Saskatchewan. So we did a lot of food science
Okay, that makes
and
sense.
understanding what is in the food that we're eating, and how things work. So there is actually a lot of chemistry when we're doing baking.
Okay.
So in this particular one, we don't want to develop the gluten or the thing that gives structure.
Okay.
We want this to be nice and fluffy,
Okay.
akin to a baking powder biscuit almost.
Okay.
Now, what do you think about this? Is it sticky? Is it dry?
Can I touch it? It feels a little sticky.
It does feel a little sticky.
Yeah.
Too sticky.
Too sticky, so we need to add more flour.
Ah.
I was
You
listening.
are such a fast learner, Eric. Such a fast learner.
Okay, so when
So-
you say add more flour, do you mean like a lot of flour? Like dump the whole thing in?
A little bit at a
little bit
time,
okay,
bud. Yeah,
okay.
a little bit at a time. So
Okay.
just sprinkle some over.
Okay.
Maybe more than that.
Trying to be
Excellent.
a little
Add
more.
more than that.
Okay, a big-
Let's get a big handful in there. Okay. There we go.
All right.
Okay, and you can see when I pull it this
Yeah.
way, we need some more. Too sticky. We do want to have a nice ragged dough.
Okay.
We don't want it to be, we need more. we certainly don't, we certainly don't want it to be like a bread
Okay.
where it's nice and smooth ball, but we do need to, we can't have it sticky.
Okay. I don't want to make too much of a mess in this beautiful kitchen.
It is a beautiful kitchen. Queen Elizabeth Culture Center here is just such a fantastic facility at the
is.
Town of Oakville. We're
Yes.
so lucky to have it.
Yes, in a previous time, I did story times here at the library, actually. We actually do programs here with the kids. It was really fun.
Oh, I bet. Now you're working at the for the Oakville Library.
Yes, I do,
now.
yes.
Yeah, and I see you brought some great books besides
Yep.
the one about Phyllis.
Yeah, we got some cookbooks, some Indigenous kitchen cookbooks, which look really good, and some history books.
I
Lots
see
of
that.
stuff at the library.
So while I was distracting you, I poured the rest of the flour in
So I could have done the whole
just
thing.
to move this along. Yeah, I see you have a book there called The Sioux Chef's Indigenous Kitchen.
Do you have any Sioux relatives?
I do actually.
you?
My
Okay.
great uncle, Kenny Uzichapi, he was Sioux. He's passed now,
Oh, okay.
and he came up with sitting bulls,
Came up with what?
with chief sitting bulls men
Okay.
in the time of the Indian Wars. Yeah, with General Custer and all of that. So
Wow.
he came up. His band settled in southern Saskatchewan. Some of the other Dakota or Sioux ended up outside Saskatoon and settled as far north as Prince Albert. So, yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. Here is our bannock.
That's it, so we can eat it now?
Well,
I know.
interesting. Would you like to try some? If you smell it, you can smell we haven't had any sugar. It's really not that nice to eat. So we have some options now
Okay.
of what we can do here.
Okay.
So we have a little bit of flour still from our messiness, but that's great because we
Yep.
put it on a lightly floured board.
Okay.
And now I've patted it into a nice circle. So we
Okay.
can do a couple things. We can roll it out with our hands, not with a rolling pin. And we can just put it on a cookie sheet and put it in, and that's what we would call a basic, typical baked bannock.
Okay.
We can make it into, push it out with our fists. This is how Kokum used to do it. And we can cut it into buns, and we can use it
Ooh.
for sliders.
Oh, you put me hungry.
Today we're actually going to use our bannock to make Indian tacos, indigenous tacos.
Okay, I heard you say Indian tacos. So I think we should have a conversation about proper terms that people use. I know a lot of people do get confused and want to say the right thing. So
You're right.
what would you say about that?
Well, I would say that you are absolutely right, that most people don't know what to say because there's been a number of terms that have been used to talk about Indigenous people in Canada, and certainly the government has used terms as a weapon of colonization or a way to divide and conquer us. So right now I would say the best term to use would be Indigenous.
Indigenous, okay.
And it's the one that's used in United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples.
Okay.
And it really refers to the original inhabitants of all lands, of all countries in the world.
Okay.
So we have adopted that in Canada. I didn't grow up calling ourselves Indigenous, we were Indians.
Okay.
Because that was the name that is in the Indian Act, which is the government policy that governs my life as an Indigenous person. In the 90s, we talked about being First Nation, and that's a term that asserts that we are the first peoples in Canada and we are sovereign nations.
Right.
And that the relationship with the Crown is sovereign nation to sovereign nation. Aboriginal is the term that's used in the Constitution. Do you remember when the Constitution came to Canada?
1982.
Very good. Very few people get that right, so I'm very impressed with you. You must do a lot of reading when you're in the library. Exactly. And the term Aboriginal encompasses three main groups, and that would be the Indian, Inuit, and the Métis.
Okay.
So those are three distinct cultural groups in Canada, each with their own culture, with their own relationship with the Crown. And people think that most people who are mixed blood are Métis, and that's not the case.
Okay.
Métis people can certainly trace their ancestry back to a number of generations back to the Red River area. They have a specific language. Do you know the language of Métis?
That I don't know.
Oh, I stumped you! Unbelievable!
What is it? Tell us what it is.
It's Métis.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have their own songs and food and those types of things. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's a great question. Now, like I said, we have some options with this. Okay, so let's work this dough a little bit and think about all the different things we can do with our bannock right now. So we talked about cutting sliders, and at home we just used a mug.
So technical.
Yeah, and just cut them out. Now, I would have obviously worked this down to a little bit more and then cut them out, and then you can use them for sliders. Today, we're going to use some of these for Indian tacos or Indigenous tacos. I still stumble with that, but you can see a nice size.
Perfect.
And I'm working the dough a little bit more than I normally would.
Okay.
But the other thing that we can do, and I have some tofurkey.
Tofurkey.
Yes, for our vegetarians out there.
Nice.
Sausages, and you can do this with any type of hot dog or french fry. You can take, now this probably reminds me when you were in Boy Scouts, you take some of it.
Yes.
You just hit a roll it and roll it around. You can do that as well with bannock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then all you have to do is just put that in the oven for 10 minutes until it's nice and brown, and you
That's all it takes is 10 minutes. It's amazing.
yeah, so that's another thing you can do. I mean, we're trying to look at in this time that we're in right now of all the different unexpected things that are happening and how we can find some silver linings. And I think most people think of having bannock with butter and jam, but there's a lot of other things you can do. So slider, you can use in buns, you can do that. This particular one that we're going to do, my friend, is going to be just straight old bannock baked in the oven. So I need you to spread this out.
Okay.
You can feel. Tell me what you think about the dough.
Okay.
When you put your.
Ooh, it feels nice. A lot less sticky. That's good.
Do you see how it's nice and fluffy?
Yeah,
and
I
that's
love
that
it.
baking powder
I could do this all day.
rising. Yeah. So it's starting to really work.
Okay.
So let's just get this into nice. Good track.
Okay.
We'll just put that back together so we can work it nice and fast. I'm going to get you just a little bit more flour.
Okay, yeah, it's a little bit sticky.
Yeah, it's been sitting. We've been talking over it for a little bit, so we're going to just sprinkle it. There we go. At home, I would have just stuck my fingers in there.
It's not our flour, so keep it clean.
Just a little bit. Okay, so there you go. Work
Okay.
that in as quickly as you can, gently. This is where we are gently. We don't want to break out any of that leavening. With the nice gas that the baking powder is doing, I would make a nice rectangle.
Okay.
Okay, and now I'm going to get you
Yeah?
to put that on our cookie sheet.
Well, I don't want to break it. Okay.
It's fine. Almost looks like a pizza dough.
Yeah.
I think we.
Should I throw it in the air?
No, that would be. So I'm a little concerned.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. I see a little counter there.
That's okay.
Okay.
You take up that side. This is kind of a monster
Okay.
bannock. It's going to feed a lot of people.
Okay.
Which is good. This is the beauty.
Well, I'm hungry, so.
Well, this is the beauty of bannock, to be honest with you. We have some very simple basic ingredients. You can feed a lot of people and you can eat it for days. So
That's amazing.
yeah, we usually often put in some shredded cheese.
Okay.
And we'll have it with chili.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
It's very good with different
Yeah.
kinds of stews, especially as we're going into fall. It's because it's nice and hearty.
Yeah.
But I really, once we get this into the oven and have it all baked up, you'll see how it tastes, how filling and nourishing it is. So if I'm going to hand this to you,
Okay.
to please go put that into our oven.
And we're back. All right, so we're gonna wrap some hot dogs. Looks like we have a few different kinds of hot dogs here today. We have some halal, and we have some chicken wieners.
Yeah, some vegetarian version, and
Okay.
of course this is the tofurkey. Another, well, I guess this isn't vegetarian, it's chicken, but for people who don't eat pork or beef,
Okay.
it's chicken, and of course the tofurkey.
Okay, so lots of dietary options today.
Yeah, I think, we live in a very diverse world. Certainly Halton region and Oakville is extremely diverse, one of the most diverse parts of Canada. When I moved here from the prairies, it was just amazing to me to see how many people still spoke their mother tongue language and their traditional dress. And I thought, what a blessing to be able to bring my children up in this type of environment. So certainly today we want to be respectful of that and respectful of the fact that we are all sharing this land. Not only is this Indigenous land, but we are sharing it. And I think that's an important thing to remember. And that, when we do land acknowledgements and we come together, we celebrate that diversity. So we wanted to make sure that was evident in what we're doing today.
That's great. Okay, so I'll start with the halal hot dog.
Sure.
Here. So
Rip some. Now mine isn't very fancy,
I was
so
gonna say,
don't worry.
okay. I don't want you judging my my wrapping here.
Now this is one of my daughter's favorite foods. Like this is what she wants at her birthday.
Oh wow.
Is,
okay.
Hot dogs wrapped in bannock.
Okay. So you just wrap it around.
Yep.
Is that enough?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
it'll. Yeah, look how much nicer yours is than mine. That's fantastic. Take a
I
couple
just
more.
learned.
Do a couple more. We're gonna have lunch here with our crew, and we're all very diverse, so make sure we have lots of different options for everybody. The other thing I was so pleased with in this area is just the amount of diversity of the restaurants and foods that are available. Even looking out to Six Nations, we have Chef Rich Francis there, who was one of our competitors for Top Chef Canada.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
He does a lot of his cooking outside,
Okay.
and really concerned with food sovereignty. And of course, now when we're talking about the lives we're living in this pandemic, and food security and food sovereignty are such big issues. So he's out there. We have Chef Joe White Duck as well, who was running Nish Dish in Toronto. Of course, there's Bannock and Tea, and lots of different places you can go to look for some Indigenous food. Well, yeah, there's a few of us here, so
Yeah, there are. Okay.
let's try this.
Okay, one more chicken.
And then we'll get it in the oven, and then we'll start thinking about how we're going to put together some
Indigenous tacos.
Indigenous tacos.
I have not forgotten both the name and the taste.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to.
We got lots to eat
There we
today.
go.
Excellent. Okay.
Oh, that looks tasty. Okay.
It looks good. You did a really good job.
Thank you.
All right, let me give this to you. And
Okay.
off to
Into the oven?
oven it goes. About 400 degrees, and we'll just make sure that about 10-15 minutes. We want to make sure the wiener, the hot dog, is cooked through and warmed, and as well as that the bannock is nice and golden brown.
All right, we're back, and it looks like we're going to make some Indigenous tacos. Angela, why don't you tell me what's inside in the tacos?
Okay, happy to do so. So I've just made a basic taco mix. Are you familiar with tacos? You guys eat tacos?
We have tacos pretty much every week in my house. I love tacos.
What do you make your tacos with? Your filling?
We use a mix from Old El Paso. And,
Okay.
and we have ground beef. We have lettuce, cheese, tomatoes, peppers, avocado.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
very diverse. So what I have here is I've just used ground beef. You can use any kind of ground meat. You can use even a vegetarian meat if you would like. You just fry that up with some onions, some garlic. Now, we eat a lot of tacos at our house as well. And I have 2 kids. So I'm always looking for ways to boost our vegetable content and definitely our fiber content. And this is one of the ways that we can do it. So there's 2 types of beans in here, black beans as well as red kidney beans. You can use white beans, cannelli beans, if your kids don't like the look of the black beans. And also corn. I usually just throw in a couple handfuls of frozen corn just to add that. And a great carrot.
Wow.
You see those little pieces of carrot?
I can see it actually.
It's hardly noticeable. My daughter barely notices it's there, so it's a fantastic way to add vegetables, sneak in some of those vegetables for your family. Now, did you know that when you cook with a cast iron fry pan, you can also increase the amount of iron in your
Really?
diet.
More chemistry. That's amazing.
Well, you
Wow.
know, being a public health nutritionist, I'm always looking for ways to increase the nutrients and make sure we have nutrient-dense food. When we use cast iron and we cook with an acidic food, like a tomato sauce or anything that's tomato-based, then it's actually, you are getting some iron in your dish.
That's amazing.
There's a thing, a product out there, it's called Lucky Iron or Lucky Fish.
Okay.
And there's actually a piece of iron. And in some developing countries, you put that fish made of iron into your soups or stews or boiling water. And when it's boiling, it'll let off some iron, and then you can take it out. It's a fantastic innovation, and I believe it was a young entrepreneur out from Ancaster area.
Oh, not far from here.
Yeah, who actually developed that.
Okay.
So yeah, often we are missing iron in our diet, so it's a nice way to do it. But we're here to make these tacos. So
Can't wait. I can see the steam coming out. So
it's
gotta be
ready to go. So
Okay.
let's open up our bannock. But if you remember, viewers, we took some of our bannock and cut it with the drinking cup, and this is what it came out of. And we're going to just use it as a base, as if you would use a taco shell. We would just. Now, I talked about fry bannock, and this is if you're on the Powwow Trail or you're going to restaurants, Indigenous-owned restaurants, and ask for Indigenous tacos or Indian tacos, you likely would. I'm going to take that back from you.
Oh.
You would probably use a fried piece of bannock.
I wasn't generous enough.
But we're going. Come on, let's make this
Reminds
is
me of
what
the
we're
sloppy
looking.
joes I had when I was a kid.
It is a bit of a sloppy joe. There we go.
That's a taco. All right, can I continue?
And now go right ahead and
Some
use any
cheese.
toppings that you would like, just to round that
I
out.
love cheese.
So a source of calcium in our
course,
diet.
yeah.
And if we use a
Some
part
tomatoes.
skim milk, you can get a lower fat cheese, and of course tomatoes.
Oh,
So
and-
abundant right now this fall.
Is this guacamole?
That is guacamole.
Oh, it looks amazing.
Does,
Bit of that
yes.
as
We'd like
well.
to acknowledge our kitchen technician today, Earl, who has been so helpful in preparing all of
It
this.
looks
So
amazing.
just a shout out to him.
All right, and I
Yeah.
should probably have a little bit of lettuce.
I think you need to have some lettuce. So there you go. Very easy. Bannock is such a versatile product that you could have. Hey, why don't you go ahead and take a bite?
All right, so I'm gonna take my mask off.
Excellent. I'll just step
take a
way
few
over
steps
here.
back.
Make sure that we maintain our physical distancing.
Yeah. All right, let's dig in. This looks amazing.
Well, I think you've done a great job with those bannock.
Go right in with all these toppings here. This is so good.
You like that?
Yeah, I want to eat it all right now.
What do you
But
think your kids would think of that?
My kids would love this. I'm gonna definitely try this. Where can you find recipes like this? Are they available online, you think?
There's probably some online, but I think really check out Oakville Public Library. I mean, there's lots of great cookbooks there, lots of resources, and such helpful people there.
Thank you.
know, talking about kids and using these products, you can look at how fantastic these buns have turned out, bannock buns have turned out. You can also use these in the morning with your children. You can make, do a boiled egg or scrambled egg, some bacon, and make up little sandwiches. So there's so many things that you can do with this. It is not just eating bannock with butter and jam, which is a really fantastic thing too.
Okay,
So maybe we should try that.
let's do it.
Yeah, I think that bannock's ready.
Okay.
You want to go over to the
I would love to.
oven and figure that out? So, Eric, how is that bannock looking?
It looks amazing. I can't wait to eat it.
Okay, not bad for your first time. You can see that we have a little bit of uneasiness. I think there'll be some kookums out there kind of laughing at it, but it's
That's okay, I
okay.
can
It
take it.
doesn't matter. Anything goes here. So
Okay.
it's nice to touch.
Okay.
Now, normally what we would do, and I'm going to keep my hand on this corner because that's the one I'm going to
Okay.
just cut off a nice big piece. Now, some grandmas will, before it goes in the oven, just poke it with a fork as well.
Okay. Okay.
And I'll let you take your knife and cut off a nice big slice. I can smell it. So we put that in the oven at a 400 degree Fahrenheit oven for 20-25 minutes. We want to make sure that it's nice and brown like this.
Okay.
And this is how you would kind of typically
Just cut into it.
eat it if you're having a little afternoon snack. Open it up. Some.
Nice and fresh.
This is nice margarine. Now, we have some beautiful apricot jam here,
Okay.
and it is all organic.
Beautiful.
And I think it's actually could be from our region here. We have such an abundance on this Niagara escarpment of food
Yeah.
available to us. Okay, so I'm going to let you.
Yeah.
Did you put any margarine on that?
I did, not a lot, but
Okay, watch
There's a
you
little bit of
figure. I
margarine.
get it. I know. Pandemic punch. I'm going to sip away,
Okay.
and
Take off my mask.
you're going to. I want to know what you think of this.
Okay.
You enjoy that? Excellent.
I do.
Yeah,
Nice and warm.
this is the smell of my childhood, and certainly my go-to comfort food. So with that, I'd just like to say, Eric, this has been such a treat. Great to get to know you. I hope you've learned something.
I've learned so much. I've learned chemistry. I've learned Bannock. I've learned Indigenous issues. It's been an amazing, amazing morning. Thank you so much for doing this with us today.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody out there watching this. I appreciate your attention, and hope we can see you soon. Hi, as you've already heard, I'm Angela Bellegarde, and I'm the Indigenous Reconciliation Lead for Our Kids Network. Just want to take a bit of time to share with you what we're doing at Our Kids Network around truth and reconciliation. Our Kids Network is a network of 8 main protocol partners and over 80 other community agencies in the Halton region, all concerned with children, youth, and families thriving. Last year, it was recognized the importance of truth and reconciliation in all of these organizations, and I was hired to try to move that thought forward and try to see how we can make a difference around truth and reconciliation in the Halton region. So we will be looking at some great things over the next few years around the truth part of truth and reconciliation. And the truth part really is what we all need to know about the relationship between Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people in Canada. The truth really is about residential school systems and what that means, because the legacy of residential schools affects us all. It's a term called intergenerational trauma, and I talk about a lot how I'm the 4th generation of residential school survivor. No, I didn't go to residential school, but my great-grandfather did, my great-grandfather and grandmother did, my father and all of his siblings went. And that's a long history. And the effects of that school, the negative effects, continue to this day. Lots of positives as well, but certainly the role of residential schools was to take the Indian out of the child, with the result that my family doesn't know their mother tongue language, and they are now learning their spiritual practices. And so my job at OKN is to talk about those things in a way that is meaningful to all of us in this multicultural society we live in, and to think about what actions we can take to redress that history. And for all of us as Canadians, we bear that burden, and we need to shoulder it together, and that's really what reconciliation is about. And today we're here learning how to cook a traditional Indigenous food, and we're looking at ways that we can do things with it, but really that's what I want everybody to do, is think about who we are, whose land we share, and how we can move forward and build a better Canada for all people, including Indigenous people. I encourage everyone to go out and to check out our Kids Network website. There's a huge page of resources that you can look at, talking about territorial announcements and acknowledgements, looking at even just where to begin on learning about Indigenous people in Canada. So that I'd like to say hi and chi miigwech.